The alarm bells were ringing throughout the massive space station that served as the home of the Galactic Space Council. For the first time in over 3,000 years, all 12 of the most powerful alien species in the galaxy had called an emergency meeting. Something big was happening, and it wasn't good news. Admiral Vorthak stood at the center of the Great Hall, his body made entirely of living crystal that sparkled under the bright lights. His people, the crystalline hegemony, were known for being calm and logical, but today he looked anything but peaceful. The crystal spikes on his back were glowing bright red, which meant he was either very angry or very scared. "Look at these readings," Vorthak said, his voice echoing like breaking glass. He waved his hand and a huge holographic display appeared in the air above them. The display showed space near Earth where humans lived, but something was terribly wrong with the picture. The space around human territory was twisted and warped, like someone had grabbed reality itself and bent it into impossible shapes. Huge ships were moving through this twisted space, but they didn't look like any ships the aliens had ever seen before. These vessels seemed to fade in and out of existence, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. "These readings are impossible," whispered the representative from the floating mines, a species that existed as pure energy. "No ship can bend space like this. It violates everything we know about physics." The other alien representatives started talking all at once. The bug-like creatures from the hive worlds clicked their mandibles nervously. The robot-like beings from the machine collective ran countless calculations, their mechanical brains trying to make sense of what they were seeing. Even the ancient tree people, who had lived for millions of years, seemed confused and worried. Admiral Vorthak raised his crystal hand for silence. "These phantom ships appeared near human space just 3 days ago. Our best scientists have studied the data, and they all agree on one thing: what we're seeing should be impossible. Yet there it is." The leader of the Dragon Empire, a massive creature with scales that reflected starlight, leaned forward. "The humans are still children in galactic terms. They only learned to travel faster than light 50 years ago. How could they possibly create such advanced technology?" "Maybe they didn't create it," suggested the ambassador from the Shadow Realm, her dark form rippling like smoke. "Maybe they found something, or maybe something found them." This idea sent a chill through the entire assembly. The galaxy was full of ancient mysteries and forgotten technologies. Some things were better left undiscovered. Vorthak's crystal body flashed brighter. "Whatever the truth is, we need answers. These ships represent a threat to the stability of our entire region of space. If humans have somehow gained access to reality-bending technology, they could accidentally destroy entire star systems." The council members looked at each other with growing alarm. They had spent thousands of years carefully maintaining peace between hundreds of different species. They had rules, treaties, and agreements that kept everyone safe. But none of their plans had accounted for someone discovering how to break the basic laws of physics. "What do you propose we do?" asked the representative from the Crystal Gardens, her voice like wind chimes. "We give them an ultimatum," Vorthak declared. "The humans must explain these ships immediately. They must allow our inspectors to examine this technology. If they refuse, we will consider it an act of aggression against the entire galactic community." Meanwhile, billions of miles away on Earth, Ambassador Kim Lee was having the worst day of her career. She sat in her office in the Global Unity building, reading the message from the Galactic Council over and over again, hoping the words would somehow change. Her hands were shaking as she held the communication device. The message was clear and terrifying. The aliens wanted answers about humanity's secret weapons, and they wanted them now. If Earth didn't comply within 72 hours, the most powerful military forces in the galaxy would come knocking on their door. Kim had always known this day might come. For the past 10 years, she had been one of only a handful of humans who knew about Project Dark Harbor, humanity's secret development of dark matter manipulation technology. It had started as a desperate attempt to defend Earth from hostile aliens, but it had grown into something far more powerful than anyone had imagined. The technology allowed human ships to interact with dark matter, the invisible substance that made up most of the universe. With it, they could phase through solid objects, become completely undetectable, and even manipulate gravity itself. It was the most advanced technology in the galaxy, and humanity had kept it absolutely secret. Until now. Kim picked up her secure phone and dialed the emergency number for the Global Defense Council. When the voice answered, she took a deep breath and said the words she had hoped never to speak. "This is Ambassador Lee. We have a code black situation. The secret is out." The Great Council chamber had never been so quiet. Ambassador Kim Lee stood at the center of the massive hall, surrounded by the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Her heart was pounding, but she kept her voice steady. After decades of lies and cover-ups, it was time to tell the truth. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," she began, her words echoing in the silent chamber. "What I'm about to tell you will change everything you think you know about humanity." The alien delegates leaned forward in their seats. Some had multiple eyes that all focused on her at once. Others had no eyes at all but sensed her presence in ways humans couldn't understand. All of them were waiting. Kim took a deep breath. "We have mastered dark matter manipulation." The silence that followed was deafening. Then, all at once, the chamber erupted into chaos. The Hive Queen, a massive insect-like creature with razor-sharp claws, clicked her mandibles so loudly it sounded like breaking bones. "That's impossible," she screeched. "Your people were still using primitive rockets when we first met you." The representative from the Machine Collective, a towering robot with glowing red sensors, processed the information for exactly 2.7 seconds before speaking. "Error detected. Human technological development curve does not support this claim. Probability of truth less than 0.01%. But Kim had expected this reaction. She had rehearsed this moment in her mind 1,000 times during the long journey to the council station. "I know how it sounds," she said, raising her voice to be heard over the commotion. "But sometimes the impossible becomes possible when you have no other choice." The ancient being from the Crystal Gardens, whose body looked like living starlight, spoke in a voice like music. "Explain yourself, young one. How did your species accomplish in decades what others have failed to do in millions of years?" Kim looked around the chamber, meeting as many alien gazes as she could. "Because we were desperate," she said simply. "When humanity first reached the stars, we weren't welcomed with open arms. We found hostile species that wanted to wipe us out. We discovered that our home system was surrounded by enemies who saw us as insects to be crushed." She gestured to the viewing screens that showed the vast emptiness of space. "We realized that normal matter, the stuff you can see and touch, makes up less than 5% of the universe. The rest is dark matter and dark energy, invisible forces that hold galaxies together. While other species focused on building bigger guns and stronger shields, we asked a different question. What if we could use the other 95%? The Dragon Lord, whose scales shifted colors with his emotions, growled deep in his throat. "Even if such technology were possible, the energy requirements would be astronomical. Your species lacks the infrastructure to power such devices." Kim smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. "That's where you're wrong. Dark matter is everywhere. It flows through this room right now, through your bodies, through the walls of this station. We don't need to generate the energy. We just learned how to redirect what's already there." She pulled out a small device from her pocket, no bigger than a coin. Several alien delegates immediately activated their defensive shields, but Kim held up her hand peacefully. "This is just a demonstration model. Watch." She pressed a button, and the coin began to flicker in and out of existence. One moment it was solid in her palm, the next moment her hand appeared completely empty, as if the coin had never existed at all. "Phase shifting," Kim explained as gasps echoed through the chamber. "Our ships can do this on a massive scale. They can pass through solid rock, through energy barriers, through anything made of normal matter. To your senses, they might as well be ghosts." The representative from the Void Empire, a creature made of living shadow, spoke in a voice like whispers. "Show us more." Kim nodded and adjusted the device. Suddenly, the gravitational field around her began to shift. The delegates nearest to her felt their chairs being pulled slightly in her direction, as if she had become more massive. Then the effect reversed, and they felt themselves being gently pushed away. "Gravity manipulation," she said. "On a small scale, it's harmless. On a large scale, our ships can create artificial black holes, gravitational lenses that bend light around them for perfect invisibility, or gravity wells that can crush enemy vessels like tin cans." The Machine Collective's representative ran millions of calculations in seconds. If true, this technology could destabilize planetary orbits, collapse stars, tear holes in the fabric of space-time itself. "Yes," Kim agreed quietly, "it could. That's why we've kept it secret for so long. We're not conquerors. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to survive." She looked around the chamber again, seeing fear in every face, even the ones that didn't look remotely human. "But now you know our secret. The question is, what are we going to do about it?" The silence returned, heavier than before. Everyone in that room understood that the balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted. Forever, the youngest, weakest species had suddenly become the most dangerous force in known space, and nobody knew what would happen next. The edge of the solar system had never seen so many alien ships gathered in one place. Dozens of massive vessels from across the galaxy floated in the cold darkness, their crews watching and waiting. Every species that belonged to the Galactic Council had sent their most advanced warships to witness what humanity claimed they could do. Admiral Jin Park sat in the command chair of the UHSV Shadow's Edge, humanity's most secret and powerful warship. The ship itself was a marvel that defied everything the galaxy thought they knew about engineering. From the outside, it looked like a sleek black triangle, but that was just the beginning of its mysteries. "Admiral, we're receiving signals from 43 alien vessels," reported Lieutenant Choi from the communications station. "They're all asking the same question. When are we going to begin?" Park smiled grimly. "Tell them they won't have to. Wait much longer. Is the demonstration area clear?" "Yes, sir. All civilian traffic has been moved at least 50 million kilometers away. The alien observer ships are maintaining safe distance as requested." Park nodded and activated the ship-wide communication system. "This is Admiral Park speaking. Today we show the galaxy what humanity has become. Remember, we're not trying to scare them. We're trying to survive. Execute Demonstration Protocol 1. The first part of the demonstration seemed almost boring compared to what would come later. The Shadow's Edge simply began to move toward a massive asteroid that floated alone in space. The asteroid was about the size of Earth's moon, a solid chunk of rock and metal that had been drifting in space for billions of years. The alien observers watched through their most powerful telescopes and sensors as the human ship approached. The asteroid at high speed. Many of them expected to see the humans pull up at the last second or blast the asteroid apart with conventional weapons. Instead, something impossible happened. The Shadow's Edge hit the asteroid and simply passed right through it. The massive warship phased through solid rock as if the asteroid was made of thin air. Sensors on the alien ships went crazy, showing readings that made no sense. The human ship was there, but it also wasn't there. It existed in the same space as billions of tons of rock and metal without any collision at all. "By the ancient codes," whispered the captain of the crystalline hegemony flagship, "they're not destroying the asteroid. They're ignoring it completely." The Shadow's Edge emerged from the other side of the asteroid completely unharmed. There wasn't a single scratch on its hull. The asteroid itself showed no signs of damage either. No explosion, no cracks, nothing. It was as if the ship had simply been a ghost passing through a wall. "Phase-shifting demonstration complete," Admiral Park announced over the open communication channel that all the alien ships were monitoring. "Beginning gravity manipulation sequence." What happened next made the phase shifting look simple. The Shadow's Edge began to bend the very fabric of space around itself. The ship didn't become invisible exactly. Instead, it became a visible distortion in space, like looking at something through curved glass. Starlight from distant suns bent and twisted around the ship, creating a shimmering effect that hurt to look at directly. The gravitational sensors on every alien ship in the area began screaming warnings. The human vessel was somehow creating and controlling its own gravity field, something that should have required the mass of an entire planet. "How are they doing this?" demanded the Hive Queen over the emergency communication channel that the alien ships were using to talk to each other. "This violates fundamental laws of physics." "Unknown," replied the Machine Collective's analytical systems. "Energy readings suggest they are manipulating forces we cannot detect or measure." But the demonstration wasn't over yet. Admiral Park's voice came over the communication system again, calm and professional. "Final demonstration. Please observe the small asteroid designated Target Alpha." A spotlight from the shadow's edge illuminated a much smaller asteroid, about the size of a city block. It was just floating peacefully in space, probably left over from the formation of the solar system billions of years ago. The human warship turned slightly, and a section of its hull opened, to reveal something that looked like a cannon, but unlike any weapon the aliens had ever seen. There was no visible barrel, no obvious firing mechanism. It was just a dark opening that seemed to absorb light. "Gravity cannon charged and ready," came a voice from inside the shadow's edge. "Fire," Admiral Park ordered. What happened next lasted only a few seconds, but it changed everything. A pulse of invisible energy shot out from the human ship toward the small asteroid. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the asteroid began to collapse in on itself, faster and faster, as if an invisible hand was crushing it like a piece of paper. Within seconds, the entire asteroid had compressed down to a single point of incredible density, a miniature black hole that warped space around it so severely that it was visible as a dark sphere against the stars. Several of the alien observer ships immediately began emergency retreats, their crews panicking at the sight of a controlled black hole. The Ethereal Collective's flagship simply vanished, using their advanced teleportation technology to escape to a safer location. But the humans weren't finished. The miniature black hole lasted for exactly 10 seconds before the shadow's edge did something even more impressive. It made the black hole disappear, safely dispersing its energy back into normal space without any dangerous effects. The silence that followed was absolute. Every alien in the observation fleet was trying to process what they had just witnessed. Humanity had demonstrated the ability to ignore solid matter, manipulate gravity like a tool, and create and destroy black holes at will. The balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted forever, and everyone knew it. The Galactic Council Chamber had been built to withstand wars, natural disasters, and even the collapse of nearby stars, but it had never been designed to contain the level of fear and anger that filled it now. The massive hall echoed with shouting voices, the sound of alien languages mixing together into a chaos of panic and rage. High Chancellor Morgoth of the Void Empire stood at his speaking platform, his massive armored form towering over the other. Delegates, his people were warriors who had conquered a dozen star systems, and they had never backed down from a fight. Today was no different. "Look at what we just witnessed," Morgoth roared, his voice booming through the chamber like thunder. "These humans can tear holes in reality itself. They can make our strongest defenses meaningless. Every moment we waste talking is another moment. They have to build more of these impossible weapons." He slammed his armored fist down on the podium, so hard that cracks appeared in the solid metal surface. "I have seen empires rise and fall across the galaxy. I have watched species evolve from primitive creatures to masters of technology. But never in all my centuries of life have I seen anything as dangerous as what humanity has become." The insectoid delegates from the hive worlds clicked their agreement, their razor-sharp claws scraping against their seats. "The Chancellor speaks truth," hissed their queen. "These humans are like a disease that has suddenly gained the power to destroy its host. We must cut them out before they spread." But not everyone in the chamber agreed. Elder Synthesis of the neural web rose slowly from her position, her cybernetic body humming with the calculations of millions of interconnected minds. When she spoke, her voice was calm and precise, each word carefully chosen. "Before we act in haste, we must consider the consequences," she said. "Our military analysis indicates that conventional warfare against beings who can manipulate dark matter would be suicide. They demonstrated the ability to create black holes at will. Do you understand what this means?" She gestured to the holographic display that still showed images from the human demonstration. "They could theoretically collapse any of our homeworlds into a singularity. They could destabilize the orbits of entire solar systems. Fighting them wouldn't be a war. It would be mutual annihilation. The chamber fell quiet for a moment as the full implications sank in. The Dragon Lord of the Flame Empire, whose people had never lost a battle in their 1,000-year history, spoke in a voice heavy with reluctant respect. Even if we could win such a war, the cost would be unthinkable. Billions of lives lost, entire civilizations reduced to cosmic dust. Is that truly the path we wish to take? This sparked a new wave of arguments. The Machine Collective's representatives began broadcasting probability calculations showing different outcomes of various approaches. The Crystal Gardens delegate argued for immediate diplomatic contact. The Shadow Realm ambassador suggested they should try to steal the human technology before acting, but it was the Ethereal Collective's speaker who raised the question that everyone was thinking, but nobody wanted to say out loud. What if we're already too late? The energy being whispered, its form flickering like candlelight. What if there are more human ships out there, hidden where we cannot see them? What if they're already watching us right now? A chill ran through the chamber. Everyone remembered how the human ship had become completely undetectable during parts of the demonstration. If humanity could hide their vessels so perfectly, there was no way to know how many of them existed or where they might be positioned. The ancient tree shepherds had remained silent throughout the entire debate. These beings were older than most stars, having existed for billions of years. They had seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations, had witnessed the birth and death of entire galaxies. When they finally spoke, everyone listened. Their representative was a massive creature that looked like a walking forest, with bark-like skin and branches that moved like arms. When it rose to speak, its voice was like wind through ancient leaves. "In all my eons of existence," the tree shepherd said slowly, "I have seen many species discover great power. Some used it wisely, others destroyed themselves and everyone around them. But never have I encountered beings so young who wield forces so fundamental to the universe itself." The chamber was completely silent now. Even the most aggressive delegates held their tongues out of respect for the ancient being's wisdom. "We stand at a crossroads," the tree shepherd continued. "Down one path lies war, a conflict that could tear apart the very fabric of space and leave nothing but darkness behind. Down the other path lies the unknown, a future where the youngest species in the galaxy holds power that even we ancients cannot comprehend." The tree shepherd's branches rustled as it turned to look at each delegate in turn. "But I tell you this, in all my years I have learned that partnership with power is safer than opposition to it. These humans have shown restraint. They could have used their demonstration to destroy us all, yet they chose to create and then safely dispel their black hole. This suggests wisdom." High Chancellor Morgoth stood up again, his anger still burning bright. "Wisdom. They're children playing with the building blocks of creation. What happens when they make a mistake? What happens when one of their experiments goes wrong and swallows a star system? Then we must hope that our guidance can prevent such disasters," the tree shepherd replied calmly. "The alternative is to guarantee the very destruction we seek, to prevent." The debate continued for hours, but gradually the chamber began to divide into clear factions. The military powers like the Void Empire and the Hive Worlds demanded immediate action. The older, wiser species like the tree shepherds and the neural web argued for caution. The others found themselves caught in the middle, trying to decide which path offered the best chance of survival. Finally, Supreme Arbiter Caney called for order. The ancient being who had overseen the council for millennia knew that a decision had to be made. "The time for debate has ended," Caney announced. "We will now vote on humanity's fate. The options are clear: military intervention to contain or eliminate the human threat, or acceptance of humanity as the 13th member of this council." As the voting began, everyone in the chamber understood that they weren't just deciding humanity's future. They were choosing the destiny of the entire galaxy. The silence in the council chamber was so complete that you could hear the hum of the space station's life support systems. Supreme Arbiter Caney, the ancient being who had overseen galactic politics for longer than most civilizations had existed, slowly raised his crystalline hand. The voting was finished and the results would change everything. "The votes have been counted and verified," Caney announced, his voice carrying the weight of history. "By a margin of 8 votes to 5, the Galactic Council offers humanity full membership as the 13th ruling species of this galaxy." Ambassador Kim Lee felt her knees almost give out from relief, but she kept her face calm and diplomatic. Around the chamber, she could see the mixed reactions of the alien delegates. Some looked resigned, others appeared angry, and a few seemed genuinely curious about what would happen next. But Kim understood the truth behind this historic vote. This wasn't an honor being bestowed upon humanity. This wasn't recognition of their achievements or respect for their culture. This was fear, pure and simple. The galaxy's most powerful species had just voted to make humanity their equal because they were too terrified to make them their enemy. "On behalf of all humanity," Kim said, stepping forward to address the council, "we accept this membership. However, we do so with certain conditions that must be clearly understood by all." High Chancellor Morgoth leaned forward in his seat, his armored form bristling with barely contained hostility. "You dare make demands? You should be grateful we're allowing your species to continue existing." Kim turned to face him directly, her voice steady and calm. "Chancellor, with respect, you're not allowing us anything. We're agreeing to work together instead of going our separate ways. There's a difference." She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every delegate who would look back at her. "Here are our terms. We will share limited applications of our dark matter technology for peaceful purposes only. Medical applications, energy generation, space construction, things that can benefit everyone. But our military applications remain strictly under human control." The insectoid hive queen clicked her mandibles in frustration. "This is unacceptable. How can we trust you if you won't share your weapons technology?" "The same way we're trusting you," Kim replied. "Each of your species has weapons and technologies that you don't share with others. We're asking for the same consideration." Elder. Synthesis of the neural web processed this information for several seconds before speaking. "Your terms are reasonable. But what guarantee do we have that humanity won't use this technology to dominate the galaxy?" Kim smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. "The same guarantee you give us, that you won't use your technologies against us. We're all choosing to trust each other because the alternative is too horrible to consider." The voting to accept humanity's conditions took much less time than the original membership vote. Within an hour, humanity had officially become the 13th member of the Galactic Council, with all the rights and responsibilities that came with it. 6 months later, the galaxy was already a very different place. Captain Yoon Jae sat in the command chair of the UHSV Phantom Strike, one of humanity's new patrol vessels designed specifically for peacekeeping duties. Unlike the massive Shadow's Edge that had demonstrated humanity's power to the Council, the Phantom Strike was smaller and more elegant, built for speed and stealth rather than raw destructive capability. "Captain, we're receiving a distress signal from the merchant vessel Lucky Venture," reported Lieutenant Park from the communications station. "They're under attack by Razor Wing pirates in the Kepler Nebula." Captain Yoon sighed. The Outer Rim had always been a dangerous place, full of pirates, smugglers, and worse. For decades, the major galactic powers had tried to police these remote regions, but it required massive fleets and enormous resources. Ships would disappear, entire patrol groups would go missing, and the pirates just kept getting bolder. "Set course for the Kepler Nebula," Yoon ordered. "Maximum phase shift." The Phantom Strike seemed to flicker out of existence for a moment, before reappearing much closer to its destination. The ship had essentially stepped outside of normal spacetime and back in, covering vast distances in seconds rather than hours. When they arrived at the nebula, they found exactly what they expected. 3 pirate vessels, each the size of a small battleship, were surrounding a helpless merchant ship. The pirates had been demanding tribute from traders in this region for over 20 years, and everyone knew their reputation for violence. "Captain, the pirates are hailing us," Lieutenant Park reported. They're ordering us to leave immediately or face the consequences." Captain Yoon almost laughed. These pirates clearly hadn't gotten the news about humanity's new role in galactic affairs. "Open a channel to all vessels in the area." "Channel open, sir." "This is Captain Yoon of the United Human Space Force. Pirate vessels, you are in violation of Galactic Council shipping protection laws. Release the merchant. Vessel immediately and surrender for processing. The response came back quickly, full of laughter and crude insults. The pirate captain clearly thought one small human ship posed no threat to his 3 heavily armed vessels. Lieutenant Park, demonstrate our gravitational manipulation system. Low power setting. Yes, sir. Activating gravity field. Suddenly, all 3 pirate ships found themselves being pulled toward each other by an invisible force. Their engines screamed as they tried to break free, but they might as well have been caught in the gravity well of a planet. Within minutes, the 3 vessels were stuck together in a tangled mess of metal and angry pirates. Pirate vessels, you are now under arrest, Captain Yoon announced calmly. Council enforcement ships will arrive within the hour to take you into custody. The change was immediate and dramatic. Word spread quickly through the criminal underworld that humanity's patrol ships could do impossible things. Pirates who had terrorized the space lanes for decades suddenly found themselves looking over their shoulders, watching for the telltale gravitational distortions that announced the arrival of a human peacekeeping vessel. What had once required entire battle groups to accomplish could now be done by a single ship with a crew of 50. The outer rim, which had been lawless for centuries, was becoming safer by the day. But the real change wasn't in the technology or the tactics. It was in the balance of power itself. For the first time in galactic history, the newest and youngest species was also the most powerful. The ancient civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for millions of years now had to adapt to a new reality where humans held the ultimate authority. Late at night, in the quiet corridors of the council station, alien diplomats whispered to each other about what this meant for the future. Some worried that humanity would eventually become corrupt with power, as so many species had before them. Others hoped that human idealism and energy might bring positive changes to a galaxy that had become set in its ancient ways. But everyone agreed on one thing. The galaxy would never be the same again. Humanity's dark matter warships patrolled the space lanes like silent guardians, their very presence a reminder that the universe had found new shepherds, and these shepherds commanded forces that could reshape reality itself. The age of human dominance had begun, not through conquest or aggression, but through the simple fact that when you can manipulate the fundamental forces of creation, everyone else has to listen to what you have to say.